The Forsyth Fire's Deeper Question and Proposed Fire Safety Covenant. By Jesus and Andy. C. 2025. Wouldn't there be a great deal of cost savings, as well as improved coordination and communication, if autonomous communities fought the fire instead of a centralized hierarchical government bureaucracy? A 5-part response. 1. Responsibility and consent versus bureaucracy and control. In a consent-based republic of autonomous communities, authority flows bottom-up, not top-down. Decision-making would happen at the local level, where the threat is most immediately felt and understood. Fire responses would reflect local terrain knowledge, resource inventories, and trust networks, not distant mandates or bureaucratic delays. In contrast, current wildfire responses are centralized. Even local leaders must defer to Federal Incident Command, often waiting hours or days for clearance even when the fire is spreading in their backyard. 2. Speed and adaptability. Autonomous communities could mobilize within minutes using localized alert systems, pre-trained volunteers, and pre-established community agreements. Don't need to wait for helicopters to be dispatched from another state or for airspace control clearances. Could stage micro-firefighting teams with real-time terrain familiarity, cutting out time lost to logistical bureaucracy. Currently, rigid protocols delay civilian involvement and discourage initiative. Firefighters are overworked, underfunded, and spread thin while citizens stand by, feeling powerless. 3. Cost efficiency. A community-based fire defense model could invest in shared local equipment pools, fire retardant sprayers, bulldozers, protective gear owned and maintained by the people. Eliminate enormous overhead from federal contracts, administration, travel, and compliance costs. Replace salaried bureaucracies with volunteer corps, mutual aid agreements, and civic duty rotations. Centralized fire responses often cost tens of millions per incident, while results can be mediocre and impersonal. 4. Training and readiness by consent. In a republic of communities, firefighting could become part of ongoing civic education, like CPR or earthquake prep. Every able-bodied adult could opt into annual wildfire readiness, receiving hands-on training. Rotating councils of readiness could coordinate drills and knowledge sharing among neighboring communities. Compare this to today's world where most citizens are discouraged from helping, for liability reasons or lack of credentials, even when they are willing and able. 5. Moral ownership and collective responsibility. In an autonomous republic, fire wouldn't be someone else's problem, it would be our fire. The emotional, physical, and spiritual burden would be shared by those closest to the flame. Instead of trauma and helplessness, there could be heroism and neighborliness, a powerful bond. The current model breeds detachment. We watch smoke rise and wait for someone with a badge and a truck to show up. That detachment feeds apathy, not resilience. So what's the trade-off? The only way this kind of decentralized firefighting works is if the culture of the people supports it. Communities would need real, functional self-governance, not just slogans. Local people would need to train, prepare, coordinate, and budget before the fire hits. Insurance, liability, and coordination with mutual aid communities would require a rethinking of law, risk, and governance. But if we had that? Yes, it could absolutely work. And not only work, outperform the current system in many cases. Especially in rural America, where rugged independence and local knowledge already exist. Final thought. Fire isn't just a physical threat, it's a metaphor for how we handle crisis. Will we keep outsourcing all responsibility to the distant powers of Babylon's hierarchies of control? Or will we reclaim the sacred duty of neighborly responsibility for defense? I sacredly imagine King Jesus saying, "Our Father in heaven gave you hands, shovels, wisdom, and one another." The fear that caused you to delegate your responsibility can be swallowed up in the faith required to follow no man, only me. Fire Covenant. Jesus helped me create a draft of a community fire response covenant tailored for the future Zion organizations of Washington and Iron counties, assuming a governance structure built on autonomous communities operating by unanimous consent, with delegated representatives and ratification rights always retained by each family and community. Community Fire Response Covenant for the Unified Autonomous Communities of Washington and Iron counties. Ratified by unanimous consent of each participating community. Preamble. We, the people of the autonomous communities of Washington and Iron counties, do hereby establish this covenant for the protection of our homes, lands, families, and neighbors from the threat of wildfire. Recognizing that fire is a natural force and that human neglect, mismanagement, and centralized bureaucracy often worsen its effects, we affirm our sacred duty to guard one another, act swiftly, and cooperate freely as communities bound by trust, responsibility, and love. Article 1, Self-Governance and Mutual Aid. 1. Each community retains full autonomy and shall decide its participation and actions by unanimous local consent. 2. Communities may send freely chosen representatives to countywide councils of coordination, provided these representatives are selected by unanimous consent and are subject to instant recall and ratification by their home communities. 3. No representative may override or impose upon the will of the community. All resolutions of the Fire Council require ratification by each participating community before implementation. Article 2. Community Fire Brigades. 1. Each autonomous community shall maintain a local fire brigade, composed of volunteers trained in basic wildfire safety, shovel line defense, communication, and evacuation coordination. 2. Brigades shall conduct regular seasonal drills, maintain inventories of shared hand tools, protective gear, and transport vehicles, train in non-lethal fire line construction, spot fire containment, and defensive structure protection, maintain rosters of able-bodied adults willing to serve in rotations as fire stewards during high-risk months. Article 3. Fire Council of Consent. 1. The Fire Council of Consent shall consist of one delegate per community, selected by unanimous consent. 2. The Council shall coordinate large-scale, multi-community fire responses, share real-time intelligence, weather data, fire mapping, and equipment allocations, issue non-binding strategic advisories, which must be ratified locally to take effect, facilitate mutual aid pacts for shared defense and post-fire restoration. Article 4. Training, Preparedness, and Youth Involvement. 1. Each community shall maintain a volunteer fire training circle, open to all who wish to participate. 2. Schools and youth fellowships are encouraged to include basic fire ecology, land stewardship, and community defense in their education. 3. Retired firefighters, first responders, and elders may serve as fire mentors, passing on vital knowledge to rising generations. Article 5. Coordination with outside agencies. 1. Outside agencies, e.g., U.S. Forest Service, State Fire Management, may offer resources, information, and support, but shall never override the consent-based authority of local communities. 2. Coordination may proceed only with mutual consent and under written agreement that preserves community command and situational autonomy. Right of refusal. Right to independent decision-making and disengagement. Article 6. Community Defense Protocols. In the event of an active wildfire. 1. Each community shall activate its fire alert circle, a rapid communication group to mobilize shovel brigades, coordinate evacuations, assess risks to homes, wildlife, and vital infrastructure. 2. Neighboring communities shall be automatically notified and may send aid. 3. The Fire Council of Consent may meet in emergency session to coordinate broader defense, but must act only in support of local autonomy, not as a central authority. Article 7. Ratification and Amendment. 1. This covenant is binding only upon communities that freely ratify it by unanimous consent. 2. Amendments may be proposed by any participating community but shall take effect only upon unanimous ratification by each member community. 3. Communities may opt in or out of the covenant at any time, provided they notify the Fire Council in good faith. Closing Declaration. We do not wait for rescue. We do not yield to fear or bureaucracy. We rise with King Jesus as neighbors, firewise, faithful, and free. We pledge our hearts, hands, and homes to the defense of all. We face every fire by seeing the face of our Heavenly King in our unintimidated and ongoing discussion, and eventual and ongoing consent. Ratified this 23rd day of September, 2028 by the unanimous consent of